Even after 6 unforgettable seasons and 3 elegant films, it still feels like Downton Abbey has more stories left to tell. The world Julian Fellowes created is simply too rich, too alive to end quietly. Fans can't shake the feeling that there's one more chapter waiting to unfold, and Season 7 might be the perfect way to open that door again. Imagine this, a new era at Downton, where time has moved forward and the next generation takes the lead. The Crawley family's children are grown, the estate faces modern challenges, and history is ready to repeat itself in unexpected ways. That's where the magic begins. One of the most natural paths for a new season would be a generational shift, a story centered around Mary's children. George and Caroline, now adults navigating a changing England. A time jump could introduce new faces and emotions, exploring love, loyalty, and power in the very halls where their parents once stood. It's a perfect balance of nostalgia and fresh energy. At the end of the last film, we saw Mary take her rightful place as the Lady of Downton Abbey. It was a powerful, symbolic moment, the torch being passed from one era to the next. With Robert and Cora moving to the Dower House, Mary became the true guardian of the estate, the staff, and the Crawley name. That moment practically begged for a continuation because it sets up a new legacy waiting to be tested. Now picture this, a decade later. George and Caroline are young adults, facing a world that looks very different from the one their mother ruled. George, heir to the estate through Matthew, stands on the brink of inheritance. Caroline, though technically a Talbot, remains deeply tied to the Crawley story, embodying both tradition and independence. Together, they represent the next chapter in the family's long and complicated history. This kind of time jump opens the door to countless possibilities. It allows for new perspectives while keeping the Crawley legacy intact. It also gives the story emotional weight, especially if it begins with tragedy. What if Mary herself is gone? What if her death becomes the catalyst that forces her children to rise sooner than expected? That single change would bring heartache, responsibility, and renewal all at once. Everything Downton Abbey has always done best. Of course, the familiar faces we've loved wouldn't just disappear. Robert and Cora could appear as wise guides in their later years, while Edith and her husband Bertie might serve as mentors, helping the young heirs navigate their inheritance. And downstairs, loyal figures like Daisy and Baxter could be there to bridge the gap between generations, offering wisdom from the servants' perspective. Their presence would remind us that Downton isn't just a house. It's a living, breathing community built on loyalty and history. Romance, as always, would be at the heart of it all. George might struggle to balance his duty to the estate with his desire to follow his own heart. Caroline could find herself torn between societal expectations and a forbidden love that tests her courage. These relationships could mirror the passion and heartbreak of earlier seasons, yet still feel entirely new. It's the cycle of love, loss, and legacy that keeps Downton alive. And let's not forget the greatest character of all, the estate itself. Downton Abbey has always been more than walls and rooms. It's a symbol of continuity. In Season 7, the house could face modernization, financial threats, and shifting values. George and Caroline might have to make impossible choices to keep it standing. Conflicts over inheritance, management, and reputation could challenge everything their family built. Meanwhile, the staff below stairs would have their own journeys. Daisy could step into a leadership role, mentoring younger cooks, while Baxter might guide new maids through the customs of service. Their stories would highlight how the world outside the Abbey is changing and how Downton must adapt or fade away. Every storyline could intertwine, connecting love and duty, the past and the future. And at its emotional core would be Mary's presence, whether living or gone. Her influence would linger in every decision her children make, her voice echoing in the halls as they strive to honor her memory. It's a poetic continuation, turning loss into legacy. If you look closely at the Downton Abbey, a new era finale, you can already see the seeds planted for this very future. Mary's divorce scandal, the appearance of Gus Sambrook and his questionable finances, Edith's growing power, even Daisy's community involvement, all of it feels like groundwork for something more. The finale wasn't just a goodbye. It was a handoff, a promise that the story isn't finished yet. And then there's the emotional brilliance of those final scenes, Mary's vision of Matthew, Sybil, and Violet. It was more than a sentimental moment. It was a reminder that the past never truly dies at Downton. Their spirits and everything they stood for could continue to shape George and Caroline as they forge their own paths. That blend of nostalgia and evolution is what makes Downton Abbey timeless. Of course, every generation faces its own battles. In Season 7, that could mean financial crises, inheritance disputes, or ideological clashes within the family itself. Perhaps an outside relative challenges George's right to inherit, or Caroline's independence sparks scandal in society. Each conflict would test not only their hearts, but their sense of duty, a recurring theme that defines the Crawleys. The themes of class, social change, and ambition would remain central. But told through modern eyes, how does the next generation keep Downton relevant in a changing world? How do they protect its traditions while embracing progress? Those are questions that resonate deeply with audiences today. Casting, of course, would play a huge role. The right actors could bring George and Caroline to life with depth, warmth, and the unmistakable Crawley grace. Legacy characters like Mary, Edith, and Robert could appear in flashbacks or brief arcs, connecting the old and the new. Downstairs, familiar faces like Daisy and Baxter would maintain that comforting thread of continuity, grounding the series in its roots. Ultimately, Season 7 wouldn't just be about new faces, it would be about what legacy means. How does a family move forward when their past is larger than life? How do children step out of their parents' shadows without forgetting where they came from? Those questions could make Downton Abbey more relevant than ever. The beauty of Downton has always been its balance, romance and duty, love and loss, privilege and sacrifice. A new season could capture that same magic, while giving fans the closure and renewal they've longed for. The finale left the door open. Now all that's left is to walk through it. And perhaps that's the real allure of Downton Abbey. Even when the curtains close, the story never truly ends. The walls remember, the legacy continues, and the heart of the Abbey beats on, waiting for its next generation to rise.